By that time, the name was given to the project as SESAME, synchrotron light source for experimental science and application in the Middle East. But also you could see, in addition to science, the name was given to Open Sesame. Is that Open Sesame, meaning that Sesame will open doors, wide doors of science, of development in the region.
We have to open our minds to the other scientists, to the other members, to the other countries, to the other light sources. So it is, in the name of the Open Sesame, it means that this place is open for everyone, whatever its nation, whatever its background, whatever its religion, whatever its ideology.
Open Sesame for science diplomacy, Open Sesame, the doors of prosperity, Open Sesame for science and technology advancement in the Middle East.
Sinhrotron SESAME akcelerator je u kome ubrzani elektroni proizvode najintenzivniju svjetlost koju nauka i tehnologija mogu stvoriti na našoj planeti. Svjetlost koja je 10 milijardi puta jača od Sunca. Infracrveni, ultraljubičasti, meki i tvrdi X zraci koji nastaju u ovoj moćnoj mašini koriste se za napredna istraživanja, pomjerajući granice nauke do neslućenih visina. U ovom 133 metra dugom akceleratorskom prstenu snop elektrona kreće se brzinom jedva manjom od brzine svjetlosti, pa samo u jednoj sekundi elektroni prođu kroz prsten 2.250.000 puta. Kada bi se elektroni kretali oko zemljine kugle, za 1 sekundu napravili bi čak 7 krugova. Zahvaljujući ovakvoj mašini u centru SESAME sarađuju istraživači iz nekada zaraćenih zemalja Bliskog istoka, a SESAME širom otvara svoja vrata za korisnike iz regiona, pa ovdje na zajedničkim projektima predano rade naučnici iz zemalja koje dijele istoriju političkih i ratnih konflikata. Zbog toga se na mnogim naučnim konferencijama širom svijeta SESAME, pored svojih naučnih rezultata, često pominje i kao blistav primjer naučne diplomatije.
You may think I'm spinning a story straight out of 1001 Nights. Or it may seem to you that this collaboration can only happen in a parallel universe. But the project is real, its scientific quality is high, and it's happening right now. The project is very special. Each of us brings his own history, his own wounds, carries his own scars. Each of us has his own interests. And yet, we have one common vision, which is to benefit the people of the region and the whole of humanity.
Izraelski fizičar Eliezer Rabinovici, jedan od osnivača centra SESAME, radio je bezmalo 20 godina sa mnogim svojim arapskim kolegama na projektu kojemu je temelj udaren još sredinom 90. godina prošlog vijeka. Tada su dvije arapske zemlje, najprije Egipat, a potom i Jordan, potpisale mirovni sporazum sa Izraelom. Tom prilikom Njemačka je istupila sa idejom da se osnuje sinhrotron centar na Bliskom istoku.
I think it's Chancellor Helmut Kohl, because he attended the Wadi Araba signing ceremony between peace treaty between Israel and Jordan. And I think in his speech, he announced that Germany will donate a very advanced synchrotron light source to the Middle East in order to promote peace and enhance scientific excellence in the region. So it was championed by the top German politicians, and I should mention Chancellor Helmut Kohl, and then definitely Herwig Schopper, being a German and the top German physicist. Probably he was asked by the German state to carry over this idea with UNESCO.
Herwigu Schoperu, nekadašnjem direktoru CERN-a, nije slučajno povjeren ovaj osjetljivi zadatak. U vrijeme hladnog rata upravo je Herwig Schoper u prostorijama CERN-a organizovao prvi uspješni sastanak Reagana i Gorbačova nakon što njihov susret u Ženevi u novembru 1985. nije prošao bez raznih izazova.
When the meeting between President Gorbachev and President Reagan was prepared in Geneva, physicists were involved in the preparation of this meeting because it was nuclear disarmament, so nuclear physicists were involved as experts. And one day, the technical leader of the technical part of the US group called me, and I knew him as a physicist colleague, said, look, in these official meetings, we only talk very formally and we cannot really talk really about the real problems. We need a neutral background where both are respected as equal partners, where we can be sure that nobody is listening to what we're discussing. Could you invite us? They said, yes, I'll invite you to dinner at CERN. So I invited them to CERN in our modest cafeteria to dinner, and after welcoming them, I left them alone. And next day, I was called by my colleague, my American colleague, and said, look, in this neutral environment where we could openly speak, we really could solve our problems, and without that agreement, this agreement would not have been signed by the two presidents.
Nakon ovog posredovanja počinje Schoperova naučno-diplomatska karijera, pa on krajem 90. godina kreće u svojevrsnu naučnu odiseju po zemljama Bliskog istoka.
Herwig Schoper, I would say he was a pillar and the founding father of SESAME, because he was the most prominent scientist who championed the cause. It was a difficult cause because many people were skeptical about this project. From the beginning, even I can tell you personally, I interacted with several top European politicians and they brushed this idea aside. It can never work in the Middle East. There are many challenges. Politics is still not ripe for such a facility. So Herwig Schoper took it on his shoulder. He took the burden as a scientist, pushing the scientific agenda, but also in parallel also working with several countries to bring them together and really push the idea forward. So I could easily say that Herwig Schoper was the pillar on which this project was founded, both for his political skills, for his scientific deep knowledge of accelerators, being an ex-director of CERN, and taking this project at the most difficult times when the idea was just evolving. And many people called it at the beginning, it's a white elephant. Even some politicians in the region, even in my country, Jordan, they will always say, oh, this is a white elephant. It can never work here. It's such a sophisticated machine. It will just be installed and will never produce light. It's just a white elephant. A lot of skeptics, a lot of difficult politics. This machine will not bring people together.
Iako se na centar SESAME gledalo kao na bijelog slona, što je arapski izraz za nešto nemoguće, nešto što se nikada neće desiti i nadići maštu ili konstrukciju makete, pioniri ovog projekta vjerovali su u svoju viziju, a ideju je od početka podržao UNESCO.
UNESCO adopted the idea and actually was a patron of this idea. So UNESCO then played a pivotal role in basically hosting the project in the sense of accepting to be the patron of this project for some time till its full establishment, following on the footsteps of CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research, which was established in the 50s after World War II as a science center. We're establishing a European distinguished science center which will bring European scientists together with countries which were fighting each other during World War II, like Germany, France, UK, Italy, bringing out these scientists together and let these scientists put their intellectual capacities and their scientific abilities towards working together for the advancement of science and advancement of peace and contributing to development on the European scale, but also on the global scale.
Profesor Herwig Schoper tako je krajem 90. godina prošlog vijeka počeo da obilazi zemlje Bliskog istoka. 1998. stigao je u Jordan, gdje je ideja primljena sa velikom pažnjom. Kralj Abdullah II, koji je 2017. lično otvorio centar SESAME, 20 godina prije toga svesrdno je podržao ovu ideju i bio među prvim liderima regiona koji je pismom generalnom sekretaru UNESCO-a potvrdio svoju podršku projektu. Vremenom su na adresu UNESCO-a stigla slična pisma premijera ili ministara iz 8 zemalja Bliskog istoka, pa je nakon toga otvorena diskusija o lokaciji. Poslije dugog procesa u kome su razmatrane i kandidature Irana, Egipta, Turske, Kipra, izbor je ipak pao na Jordan.
It's in the heart of the Middle East, crossroads of the Middle East, as since ancient times where Jordan, then with the famous Nabatean civilization of Petra, was at the crossroads of the Middle East, you know, with the trade coming from North Africa, Egypt, to the Middle East, and then to going to further east to China. In addition to that, I believe that Jordan was selected because of its proximity to the original lines of conflict, namely the Arab-Israeli conflict, the Palestine-Israel conflict, and Jordan was selected in order really with the main aim then of science diplomacy to promote peace between Arabs and Israelis. Jordan then had signed the peace treaty of Israel. It had announced that it could accept scientists from all over the world, including Israel, for sure. So no scientists, and we had good relationship with all countries in the world, East and West. We could host countries from US, Europe, Russia, Cyprus, China, whatever. We are on good terms of everybody.
So I think the selection of Jordan was very good. It's very close to most of the members. Also, they gave some, to get the visa, entry visa, most of the members, they don't need visa, or at least they need it upon arrival at the airport. So this facilitates, of course, the travel and the visit to SESAME. So I think this is criteria which should be available in any country to host such a regional project.
When you look at CERN in Europe, bringing German scientists, French scientists who were at war, probably a big war in Europe in World War II, and then 10 years later or 11 years later coming to Geneva as a neutral country to work together. And you could see similarities. Jordan, it's like the Switzerland of the Middle East, a neutral country, being in good terms with everybody, opening its doors to any scientist. So by all accounts, these features, and you could see the similarities. So with the SESAME project, definitely Israeli scientists were able, within less than an hour or hour and a half, to come from their own institutes or universities and cross the bridge and be at SESAME to do their experiments.
Čuveni Allenby most koji povezuje Palestinu i Izrael sa jedne i Jordan sa druge strane od 1967. bio je otvoren za saobraćaj, ali samo za Palestince. Poslije potpisivanja mirovnog sporazuma 1994. Izraelci su mogli da mostom idu u Jordan, ali skoro da ga nisu koristili sve dok izraelski naučnici nisu počeli da dolaze u SESAME. Međunarodni istraživački centar SESAME možda je jedino mjesto na svijetu pored Ujedinjenih nacija gdje predstavnici zemalja bliskoistočnog regiona razgovaraju, sarađuju, radeći u potpunom miru i slozi. Inženjeri, tehničko osoblje, operateri u sobi za nadzor i kontrolu, naučnici zaduženi za eksperimentalne stanice na kojima se radi sa različitim vrstama svjetlosti, ekipe za hitne situacije i intervencije danonoćno rade kako bi se proizvela svjetlost najboljeg mogućeg kvaliteta i optimalno iskoristila za eksperimente istraživača koji dolaze iz regiona. Iako se ovdje govore razni jezici, svi zaposleni najtečnije govore jezik naučne i tehničke metodologije i jezik zajedništva.
If you have lots of diplomats with different political backgrounds, then I don't know for how many years they can keep talking. But if you put scientists with them, you reach a point where there is no further discussion. I always say that 1 plus 1 is 2, and nobody can keep talking after 1 plus 1 is 2, right? So you had to use a very neutral language, very rigid language, and something that all these people wouldn't argue with. And I think they were very brilliant when they chose the language of science that everybody can understand.
Science is a global thing. It's a global project for all the humanity, and it's accumulation of efforts from all of the nations. No nation can say that this is our own science. So science is a common language by the different nationalities, and I find SESAME that provides really a common ground on which different peoples can stand on and can do research and can talk to each other and can build a science and spread it for the advantage of the different people or nations in the world.
Research is one language everywhere. So we have a specific research problem. We try to help each other and assist each other in order to solve this problem. This is basically our merit that we can rely on in working in synchrotron. So this is basically, we don't feel any problem because this is easy for us to communicate in this way. We rely on knowledge.
Software has no barrier and no border. So in one day, a user sitting here might be using software developed in any country in the world and shared by other users that sit anywhere. So that's what I mean by open software, right? Working with a piece of code or software which has been written together by users around the world, sitting here in Iran, Pakistan, or Egypt.
When I was doing my PhD in Italy, I was always having this small Egyptian flag. Wherever I go, I take it with me just to remind me of my identity. I was so much into my identity, and still, of course, so much into my identity. When I joined SESAME, I just reflected that it wouldn't be appropriate to have my national flag with me, because it means that as if we are doing nothing. If you still keep your national flag and I still have my national flag, then there is something in the air that could stimulate unneeded turbulence, I would say. So I said, okay, I go, and with SESAME, I feel that I'm neutral. I'm still Egyptian to the heart, in my heart, and everything, in my thoughts, in my behavior, everything. But I thought that here I'm just Jihan, the beamline scientist. I'm not Jihan, the Egyptian. And this is something that you see here. I mean, nobody is talking about nationalities or about religions or about cultures.
ali zato svi govore o nauci. No svi naši sagovornici ističu jedno. Da bi nauka zaista mogla da premosti velike političke, nacionalne, ideološke razlike i identitete, potrebno je da to bude nadprosječna, izvanredna nauka, nauka najvišeg mogućeg nivoa.
When you really want to succeed in science diplomacy, you have to get the best brains, the most open-minded people. And scientists who are really at the top are always broad-minded. They are able to talk the language of science. They are able to interact with the universe, the bigger universe, rather than living in their small corners. So for sure, it's much easier to really succeed in science diplomacy when you bring big brains together who are open, who are able to talk to the other, who are able to understand the other. So for sure, science diplomacy, and I agree with Hervik, will only succeed when you really do excellent science. If you want to build science diplomacy based on mediocrity, then you are really going through narrow corners, which for sure will not work.
If there is no excellency and advanced technology, advanced research facility, nobody will come. No, simply because if I can do things at my home, at my laboratory, why I travel and go abroad to do something else? So the facility, our regional facility, should be something which is not available at the national level. Something which is more advanced, something more with more facilities, with more beam experiments or some devices which is not available on the national level. And also, I think the selection of having light source in this region was very good decision, because light source is not available in any member of the countries in the Middle East.
If you're doing mediocre or incremental science, no one cares about it. And a synchrotron allows you to rise above just the everyday sort of experiments that people do. It allows you to really, like I said earlier, push the frontiers of science. And when you're creating new knowledge that the world is interested in, then they start saying, well, how did you do that? Well, we did it because we have a powerful facility like SESAME. And so in order for people to care, you have to really push the frontiers of science forward. You have to take on projects that seem to not have a solution, that are too big to solve, right? People told us you can't harvest water from air. Well, we went into the lab with some creative thinking, developed a material, and we built a device around it. And people are interested in it. And we can't do that without something like a synchrotron.
If you sacrifice your life for science, and if you sacrifice so many, let's say, point of views, if you want to sacrifice some principles and you just exchange for others, then you have to do it for something that's really, really precious. And I don't think that SESAME would be as it is today if it was not thought of and developed to be a center of excellence, especially in this region.
U dugogodišnjem procesu nastajanja centra SESAME od ključnog značaja bio je razvoj ljudskih kapaciteta. Stručnjaci iz raznih oblasti išli su na obuke u slične centre u Europi kako bi se osposobili da izgrade, održavaju i do najboljih mogućnosti koriste izuzetno složenu mašinu kao što je sinkrotron.
You cannot just order a machine or a system come as a black box and you just push buttons. This is not the way. To be frank, then you will hit basically a solid wall just after a few steps. You really have to build the capacity, not just to operate and run the machine, such a sophisticated machine. 3 electron accelerators accelerating electrons to relativistic speed, which is close to the speed of light. And such a machine is very sophisticated when it comes to the electronics, the technology, when it comes to the radio frequency cavities, where the power sources, name it. the vacuum, but also to train scientists on how to use the machine and what type of science can be done using such a machine.
I think the building capacity idea was a very brilliant idea. It was of the main pillars that supported SESAME at the beginning. And I remember the idea was to make a workshop and to collect the people who are interested to joining SESAME, engineers and physicists, etc. And they selected a number of these participants and sent them to different European labs to be trained and to get knowledge and experience and to come back to build SESAME. And this was really very successful.
Without good expertise, without well-trained engineers and technicians to operate this machine, of course, everything will collapse. So capacity building is the most important part in such a project. In matter of training of the personnel, giving them the enough information, giving them the enough expertise. And now actually in SESAME we have a very good expertise in all fields of flight sources. They can install anything, they can maintain, they can operate, they can repair. And you know that SESAME also, of course, we have a limited budget. So we are not those people who are just changing pieces when it is gone away. What we do is just maintain it, we just repair it. And of course, we extend the life of the pieces. And this is, of course, from economical point of view, is very important. So without this expertise, we cannot do this.
Projekat SESAME pratili su ekonomski izazovi. U ovaj centar do sada je uloženo $120 miliona. Od toga je samo izgradnja akceleratorskog prstena koštala 20 miliona. U njegovu konstrukciju Jordan, Izrael i Turska uložili su po 5 miliona, a 5 miliona je došlo iz fondova Evropske unije. Prije izgradnje solarne elektrane koja SESAME snadbijeva električnom energijom za rad centra bilo je potrebno $8,5 miliona godišnje. Od 2019. kada je elektrana počela sa radom, godišnji troškovi su pali na $5,200,000. I pored finansijskih poteškoća, SESAME gradi nove eksperimentalne stanice. Kapacitet centra se postepeno širi uz stalna ulaganja i angažovanje novih stručnjaka specijalizovanih za određene svjetlosne zrake i tehnike njihovog korišćenja u istraživačke svrhe.
It took a lot of stamina, a lot of effort and determination. To be frank, it was not an easy path, it was not rosy. There were many hurdles on the road, many ups and downs, in addition to several political tensions, namely, actually, even after the peace between Arabs and Israelis, there were many wars in the Middle East, you know, US wars with Iraq, the Gulf Wars, Palestine and Israel probably not in the best terms going through a comprehensive peace process. So many hurdles on the way. Political hurdles were always there, but mainly there were also financial hurdles, I should mention, because to be frank, up till today, not all members of SESAME countries have honored their commitments to SESAME. And we passed through very difficult times when it came to financial resources and cash flow within SESAME to pay our commitments in terms of salaries, in terms of keeping the machine running cost.
There are many challenges in this project. One of the challenges, of course, is the capital budget, how to build. This is actually beyond maybe the economical situation of most of the members in the region. And also how to run this facility. It is really expensive to run a facility like Light Source. And also the main challenge is the technological challenges. Yeah, without the support from our supporter and our friends in Europe, it was impossible to build a facility like this.
Podstaknut uspjehom bliskoistočne priče o nauci za mir, dr. Herwig Schoper pokrenuo je 2016. sličan projekat na Balkanu predlogom da se u našem regionu izgradi akcelerator za hadronsku terapiju kancera. Ovi akceleratori mnogo su rijeđi od sinkrotrona, u svijetu ih ima svega 12. U njima se veoma uspješno liječe 4 kategorije oboljelih: djeca, trudnice, pacijenti koji se ne mogu operisati i pacijenti kod kojih konvencionalno zračenje ne daje nikakve rezultate. Tako je začeta ideja o institutu SEIST, koji bi jednom polovinom svojih kapaciteta služio za liječenje kancera, a drugom polovinom za različita naučna istraživanja od biomedicine preko poljoprivrede do nauke o materijalima. Inicijativu je 2017. preuzela Crna Gora, predvođena tadašnjom ministarkom nauke Sanjom Damjanović, a 2019. premijeri 6 zemalja našeg regiona dali su političku podršku projektu potpisivanjem memoranduma o saradnji.
I'm happy that Herwig Schopper is also championing this idea of SES. For sure, he has a success story to build on, which is SESAME. More challenging when it comes to politics, more challenging when it comes to technology transfer compared to SES project, which is built in Europe, which typically are more advanced in terms of modern technology compared to the Middle East countries when we started by all accounts. So there are some positive elements when it comes to SES, being a project built in Europe, closer to the European core of scientific excellence, to France, to Germany, to Italy. So this proximity when it comes to geography is in the favor of SES. When it comes to the technological and scientific level, I'm sure the Balkan countries, or you might call the countries of Southeast Europe, are way ahead, or they are ahead several steps compared to Middle East countries when it comes to science.
We need a lot of international support, as we had. You need lots of believers that this thing will be on one day, even if it takes 20 years. SESAME started as an idea, something like the late 90s. I mean, so it's something took almost 20 years to have this interview now in one of the beamline. So time, it doesn't matter in these situations, because everybody knows that it's really, really, really difficult. And resources are needed, expertise, trust.
When we moved into this building in 2009, a Nobel laureate told me when I was there, when are you going to announce the death of SESAME? One of the Nobel laureates. Really, I hosted 40 Nobel laureates who came to our yearly convention, which was held in Petra. And we tried to impress them by letting them visit SESAME. That time the building was there, but there were just few components. Probably the experimental hall was empty. So one of the Nobel laureates came to me and said, when are you going to announce the death of SESAME? This will never fly. So skepticism is there, even among scientists. But it's hope. It's the idea that mankind and the human element can circumvent big challenges, can really make the impossible, and the stamina of the scientists behind the project will make it run.
Yeah, I think for SES project, the people first, they have to believe in this project. They have to believe that they need to have a project like this. If there is a will in the region to have such a project, I'm sure that they will get enough support and enough help to have this project. This one point. Another point is to select the best place to host this project. Of course, you have to have some criteria for this, how to make the scientists or the users easily go to the facility and back, and this is an important point. And also you need to build your human capacity building. You need to get enough expertise, or we can say the critical mass of expertise to run the machine. Because if you have this base, after that, of course, you can increase your capacity. You can by yourself. I mean, you can depend on yourself. It is sustainability. If you need to make it the project, you have to have a sustainable project.
So for science, a word of wisdom is say, be open-minded, believe in the good cause of building science. It will definitely have a positive impact on your countries when it comes to scientific research, building capacity, or applying it in the medical and health fields, and be confident that the people who are leading the project with the caliber of Herwig Schupper, for sure, they have the capability, the good intention to take this project through the difficult steps that it has to go through and let it fly at the end.
Profesor Khaled Tukan stekao je doktorat iz nuklearnog inženjerstva u Bostonu na čuvenom MIT-u, a u vladi Jordana bio je ministar 3 puta u sektorima obrazovanja, naučnog istraživanja i energetike. Kao naučnik koji se veoma uspješno bavio politikom i diplomatijom, ističe da je za SEIST projekat najvažnije da bude netaknut uskim političkim interesima.
Isolating such a big scientific endeavor from the day-to-day politics. This is very important. These projects are strategic, they are long-term, they shouldn't be subject to changing governments or ministers every 6 months or a year or 2 years. The political leadership, maybe the head of state in our case, the king, has always stood behind SESAME, a long-term project. You shouldn't expect to bear fruits in the next 6 months or a year. The fruits will come later. You have to invest energy, you have to invest effort, you have to invest money before you reap the fruits. And it's the long-term, vision that should guide these projects. If day-to-day politics or political bickering or friction comes into these projects, it will spoil them for sure. So my advice, not let day-to-day politics come. These projects should be isolated from the day-to-day politics. However, they should be part of the policy orientation of a country, that science, technology, and also improving life based on good medicine, state-of-the-art medicine, or building state-of-the-art scientific facilities should be pursued regardless of the day-to-day politics and political changes.
Institut SEIST još uvijek je u fazi izbora lokacije. Početkom marta u Skoplju je održan sastanak radne grupe koja se bavi ovom temom i koja je definisala listu uslova za zemlje kandidate. Pred našim institutom je još dug put, ali ako sagledamo bliskoistočni centar SESAME po kome je SEIST modelovan, ostvarenje ove vizije o pomirenju i naučnom napretku donijelo bi neslućene dobrobiti balkanskom regionu. Gotovo da nema segmenta života koji SESAME za 5 godina svoga rada nije dotakao na Bliskom istoku. Od uzbudljive prošlosti u ovoj svjetskoj riznici drevnih historijskih priča, arheoloških tajni i istina, do dramatične sadašnjosti u kojoj bi voda mogla postati dragocjenija od ičega. Spojem vrhunske tehnologije i izvanredne nauke, ovakvi centri pokreću razvoj u svakom pogledu, pa je jordanska nauka, recimo, zahvaljujući sinhrotronu, objavila svoj prvi rad u čuvenom časopisu Nature. No u centru SESAME naučili smo da ne postoji jordanska, izraelska, palestinska, pakistanska, turska, kiparska, egipatska, iranska nauka.
العلم هو لغة مشتركة لكل الشعوب والأمم.
Siyaset kişilerle bağımlıdır ama bilim gerçektir. Bu yüzden bilim sınır tanımaz.
Il software libero parla tutte le lingue del mondo.
मेरे लिए साइंस अमन का जरिया है। ये लोगों को एक दूसरे के करीब लाता है।
العلم عادل، العلم شفاف كالماء، نحيا به ونموت من دونه.
العلم ليس له وطن، العلم ينتمي إلى الجميع، العلم لكل الناس في كل بقاع الأرض. العلم مثل الحائط الكبير الذي كل واحد فيه بيضيف شيء جديد، بيضيف طوبة لبنة على لبنة حتى هذا الحائط يرتفع إلى أعلى وأعلى ويتقدم.